50 people stopped talking at once. That's how I knew the moment had landed. Not because of what I'd said, but because of the silence that followed it, thick enough to touch, while my mother's wine glass hovered halfway to her lips and never made it the rest of the way. I'd just set a cream-colored envelope down on my grandmother's dining table, the kind of envelope that changes the temperature of a room. "I have news too," I'd said. 3 words. My family would spend the rest of that afternoon trying to recover from them. But if I start there, you'll miss what made it matter. So let's go back. Not to that party, to the phone call that came 8 weeks before it, the one that finally cracked something inside me that had been holding on by threads for 22 years. I was sitting cross-legged on my dorm bed, phone against my ear, rehearsing the question in my head before I asked it out loud, like I was approaching a wild animal instead of my own mother. "Mom, I wanted to confirm the date for graduation," I said. "February 9th, 2 o'clock. There was a pause on the other end, long enough that I could hear my father's television in the background, sports analysts arguing about a quarterback's completion percentage. Then my mother's voice, careful in a way I'd learned meant bad news was coming. "Sweetheart," she said. "You know what day that is, right?" I knew. Of course I knew. "Super Bowl Sunday," I said. "But the ceremony's only 2 hours, and the stadium's 40 minutes from the house. You could be back before halftime." More silence. Then my father's voice cut in. He must have grabbed the phone out of her hand. "Stella, Tyler has important people coming that day. A scout from the league office. This could be his shot." Tyler. Always Tyler. "Dad, I'm graduating with honors. For years of work. And we're proud of you," my mother said, jumping back in with the same rehearsed warmth she'd used my whole life. "But honey, graduations happen every year. The Super Bowl only comes once." I wanted to scream that I'd worked 3 jobs to pay for a degree they hadn't contributed a cent to, while they'd bought my brother a car, a personal trainer, and plane tickets to tryouts in 4 different states. I didn't. I'd learned a long time ago that screaming changed nothing in this house. "I understand," I said instead. "Good girl. We'll celebrate later, okay? Send pictures." The line went dead. I sat there holding a phone that had stopped making sound, and I noticed something for the first time, clearly, like a light switching on in a room I'd been standing in for years without seeing it. Not once had either of them asked what honors I was receiving. Not once had they asked if I was excited. To them, my graduation was a Tuesday with extra traffic. To understand how I got so good at swallowing things like that, you have to go back further, to the day, for years earlier, when an acceptance letter with a partial scholarship arrived in our mailbox and I ran downstairs holding it like a winning lottery ticket. "Mom, Dad, I got in. With a scholarship." My father didn't look up from his laptop. "That's nice, sweetheart. But we need to talk about money." What followed was the conversation that quietly built the next 4 years of my life. The scholarship covered 60%, my father explained, and they couldn't make up the difference, not with Tyler needing specialized coaching that year. "His coach says he's got real potential," he said, like that settled something. My mother put a hand on my shoulder, gentle and final at the same time. "You've always been so independent," she said. "Tyler needs more support. You understand, right?" I understood completely. From that point on, I became something like a ghost who happened to share their last name. I chased every scholarship I could find. I pulled barista shifts at 6 in the morning, worked as a teaching assistant by noon, and tutored kids until midnight. I ate the same $5 bag of ramen so many nights, I can still smell it when I think about that year. My GPA climbed to a 3.9 while my checking account hovered near 0. Tyler, meanwhile, got a new Mustang for his 19th birthday, for driving to practice, my mother explained, as though that justified it. He got a personal nutritionist because athletes need proper fuel, according to my father. He flew first class to training camps in 3 different states, all of it filed under investments in his future. In 4 years, I went home exactly 6 times, and every visit looked the same. Help Mom cook for Tyler's friends, listen to Tyler talk about his games, watch Tyler unwrap gifts while I sat somewhere near the wall. Nobody asked about the research paper I'd had accepted for a conference. Nobody asked where I'd landed on the dean's list. Almost nobody. There was one person who noticed, and one phone call that night I haven't forgotten. After I hung up on my parents, I called someone who'd never once made me feel like static on a phone line. "Stella, my darling," she said, and her voice did the thing it always does, wrapped around me like she'd reached through the phone and pulled a blanket over my shoulders. My grandmother is 80 years old and sharper than most people half her age. 30 years of teaching high school English will do that to a person. "I already heard," she said, before I could explain anything. "Your mother called me first, trying to get her story straight. I told her she was making a mistake she'd regret." I laughed, even though it came out bitter. "Grandma, I don't know if I can do this alone." "You're not alone." Her voice sharpened into something almost fierce. "I will be there if I have to crawl into that stadium myself. My grandmother lives 2 hours away. Her knees haven't been good in years, and her cardiologist has opinions about long car rides. And yet she was already planning to do what my own parents wouldn't." "You don't have to," I started.
"Hush."
Non-negotiable. Then her voice shifted, gentler, more curious. "Now tell me the truth. There's something else going on with you. You sound like you're carrying a secret." I went still. She always knows.
"It's nothing, Grandma. Just nerves about after."
She clearly didn't believe me. "Whatever it is, you'll tell me when you're ready. Just remember, you don't need their approval to shine. You never did." After we hung up, I lay there staring at the ceiling, because she was right about more than she knew. I was carrying something. I just wasn't ready to say what. Not even to her. That something had a name a week before graduation when my thesis advisor, Dr. Margaret Smith, called me into her office. Dr. Smith doesn't sugarcoat anything, sharp-eyed, late 50s, the only professor who'd pushed me to send my research out to academic journals instead of just turning it in for a grade. "Close the door, Stella. Sit," she said, gesturing at the chair across from a desk buried in papers. My heart was already hammering. Had I done something wrong? "I've been watching you for 4 years, she said instead. "You're one of the most dedicated students I've taught. Your thesis on socioeconomic barriers in education is exceptional work." "Thank you, but I started." "I'm not finished." She held up a hand. 8 months ago, I submitted your name for something. A nomination. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to get your hopes up." She opened a drawer and slid a cream-colored, official-looking envelope across the desk. "The results are in there."
"Don't open it now."
"Wait until after the ceremony. I want graduation day to be memorable for you, one way or another." I picked it up with hands that weren't quite steady. It felt impossibly light for something that might change everything. "What is this?" For the first time since I'd known her, Dr. Smith smiled, a real one. "Let's just say your hard work may have opened a door bigger than you imagined. Whatever happens next, Stella, you earned it." I tucked the envelope into the inside pocket of my graduation gown that night, and I waited. 5 days before the ceremony, I drove home to grab a few things from my old room. I knew something was wrong the second I pulled into the driveway. A banner the size of a garage door announced Tyler's future NFL star party, Super Bowl Sunday, in letters you could read from the street. I sat in the car for a full minute just looking at it. Inside, my mother was on the phone with a caterer. My father was wiring up a second TV in the backyard, and Tyler was sprawled on the couch scrolling his phone like a king surveying a kingdom he hadn't built. "Stella," my mother said, distracted, not even looking up. "Didn't know you were coming."
"Big party, right?"
50 guests. The Scout's bringing his whole family. I wandered toward the kitchen anyway, past football-shaped plates and team banners and a half-finished sheet cake getting Tyler's face piped onto it in blue frosting. "Need any help?" I heard myself ask, a reflex more than a real offer, some small stubborn part of me still hoping to be included after 22 years of evidence that I wouldn't be. "No, no," my mother said, waving me off without turning around. "You should head back to school. Don't you have that ceremony thing soon?" That ceremony thing, for years of my life, filed under 3 dismissive words. "It's Sunday, Mom. 2 p.m. same day as the party." Right. She was already turning back to her phone. "What day did you say it was again?" I'd told her a week ago. I told her 3 days ago on the phone. "Never mind," I said, and went to grab my things. On my way out, I passed a stack of party invitations on the entryway table, ready to be mailed. "Join U.S. to celebrate Tyler Whitney and family." My name wasn't on it anywhere. I wasn't sure why that still surprised me. The night before graduation, I paced my dorm room holding my phone, trying to talk myself into one last call. One more chance for them to show up, I kept telling myself, even though some part of me already knew how it would go. I dialed home and got laughter, clinking glasses, music in the background, a pre-party for the pre-party. Hello. My mother's voice was light, a little loose around the edges. She'd clearly been drinking. Mom, it's Stella. Honey, hold on, she shouted to someone else in the room. It's my daughter, the one graduating tomorrow. At least she'd remembered that much. Sorry, sweetie. What were you saying?
I wanted to tell you something.
I was chosen to give the student speech tomorrow. Out of 3,000 graduates. For one hopeful second, I thought she was actually processing it. Then, oh, that's wonderful, hold on. Richard, Tyler's scout just texted. He's bringing 3 extra people. She came back distracted. Sorry, honey, what were you saying? Something about a speech. I'm the student representative, Mom. I'm speaking at graduation. That's nice, sweetheart. Listen, I need to call the caterer back. My father's voice boomed somewhere behind her. Who's on the phone? Tell them we'll call back. We're busy. I'll call you tomorrow, okay? Love you. 3 beeps. She'd hung up. I sat on the edge of my bed staring at my gown on the closet door, Dr. Smith's envelope tucked inside it, still sealed. Somehow that envelope felt like the only thing in my life that still had room for possibility. Tomorrow I'd walk alone. Maybe, I told myself, I'd be walking towards something bigger than anything they could picture. I woke before my alarm on Super Bowl Sunday, watching pale winter light creep across my dorm room ceiling. For years of sacrifice, sleepless nights, and quiet tears were supposed to feel like something on this particular morning. Instead, it just felt hollow. I showered, did my hair carefully, and put on the navy dress I'd bought at a thrift store for $12, the nicest thing I owned. Then I lifted my gown off its hanger and put it on, heavier than I remembered, though maybe that was just everything else. My phone buzzed. I grabbed it too fast, hating myself a little for hoping. Tyler. Good luck today, sis. Sent at 2:47 in the morning, definitely drunk. Nothing from my mother. Nothing from my father. Then another buzz. Grandma Grace. On my way, my darling. Traffic's heavy, but I'll be there. So proud of you already. I smiled for the first time that whole morning. I pressed my palm flat against the outside of my gown and felt the outline of Dr. Smith's envelope underneath, still sealed, still waiting. Whatever was in it, good or bad, I decided it belonged to today and nothing else. Not yesterday's disappointments, not tomorrow's uncertainty. The Uber arrived at 8. Big day, huh? The driver asked, cheerful. Family meeting you there? I paused a beat too long.
There.
Taking a different route, I said, and he didn't push. The stadium was chaos and joy in equal measure. Mothers adjusting caps, fathers aiming cameras, grandparents already dabbing their eyes before the ceremony had even started. Homemade signs everywhere. Congrats, Sarah. We're so proud of you, Marcus. I waded through that whole ocean of love looking for Section C, row 12, where a small placard read Stella Whitney, seats 427. I'd reserved 4 seats out of some stubborn, desperate hope. All 4 were empty. Almost. On the 4th seat sat a faded purple scarf, hand-knit, with the little mistakes in the stitching that Grandma Grace always laughed about. She'd been here. She'd saved the seats. My phone buzzed. Grandma Grace, sweetheart, there's been a terrible accident on the highway. I'm stuck and not moving. I'm so sorry. I'm trying everything. Please don't wait for me. I typed back, it's okay, Grandma. I love you. Don't stress. It wasn't okay. But there was nothing else true I could say. I turned away from 4 empty seats and walked toward the rest of the graduates, who were hugging parents goodbye and promising to wave when their names were called. A man a few rows back, holding a sign meant for someone else entirely, caught me staring at the empty seats and gave me a small, sympathetic nod. A stranger's kindness. That was what the day had to offer me so far. The processional music swelled, and 3,000 graduates began the slow march into a stadium lit up like a held breath. I found my place somewhere in the middle of the W's, flashbulbs popping in the stands like fireflies, the announcer welcoming families and acknowledging distinguished guests over the speakers. I kept my eyes forward. Don't look at Section C, don't count the seats. I looked anyway. 4 empty. 1 purple scarf. We'd been told twice to silence our phones. I checked mine anyway when it buzzed against my leg and wished immediately that I hadn't. Tyler had posted a new story, streamers in team colors, a grill smoking in the backyard, my father at the center of it all with a beer raised toward the camera. Pre-game's lit, Tyler's voice narrated over the clip. Best Super Bowl spread in Texas, right here. My mother stood laughing with a cluster of women, a jersey on, a plate of wings balanced in one hand, looking happier than I'd seen her look in years. I closed the app. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The girl beside me noticed. You okay? Fine. I lied, forcing a smile. Just nervous about the speech. Oh my God, you're the student rep? That's amazing. Where's your family sitting? I'll wait for you. I didn't answer. I just pointed vaguely toward Section C and prayed she wouldn't look closely enough to count the empty chairs. Please welcome our student representative, Stella Whitney. Applause rolled through the stadium. I stood on legs that felt borrowed from someone else, smoothed my gown, and started the longest walk of my life toward a podium that looked enormous from where I was standing. 10,000 faces in the crowd, 3,000 graduates, and 4 empty seats waiting for me in one specific row. I gripped the podium edges and adjusted the microphone, and for one terrifying second the speech I'd written dissolved completely out of my head. Then I saw her. White-haired, out of breath, sliding into seat 4 at the last possible second. She'd made it. She actually made it. She gave me a thumbs up with tears already streaming down her face, and I found my voice again. 4 years ago, I showed up on this campus with 2 suitcases and $17 in my checking account, I said, and my voice carried across the stadium, steady in a way that surprised me. I didn't have a backup plan. I didn't have a safety net. What I had was the belief that hard work would speak louder than circumstances ever could. The crowd went quiet listening. Today I want to talk to everyone who's worked a midnight shift before an 8 a.m. exam. Everyone who chose textbooks over groceries some months. Everyone sitting in these seats with nobody in the stands cheering their name. My eyes found Grandma Grace, one person, just her. Success isn't about being loved by everyone in the room. Success is knowing your own worth even when no one's watching. We don't need permission to shine. We never did. I stepped back. For one breath, nothing happened. Then the stadium erupted, not everyone, but enough. Students on their feet, some of them crying, applause rolling like weather. I walked back to my seat on legs still shaking, and across the stadium my grandmother was standing and clapping so hard I genuinely worried about her heart. One person. That turned out to be exactly enough to feel seen. The names rolled on alphabetically for what felt like forever. Johnson, Martinez, Thompson, each one punctuated by screaming and air horns from somewhere in the stands. Then, Stella Whitney, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa, departmental honors in sociology. I stood, and the walk to the stage felt both endless and instant at once. The chancellor shook my hand and pressed a diploma into my palm while cameras flashed everywhere. I turned to face the crowd and wave, the way everyone does, the way I'd watched 1,000 other graduates do on 1,000 other live streams. Section C, row 12. My grandmother on her feet despite her bad knees, waving both arms like she was directing air traffic. Just her. And then, behind her, the stranger who'd nodded at me earlier, on his feet too, clapping, like he'd noticed the empty chairs and understood exactly what they meant. A small gesture from someone who owed me nothing. It cracked something open in my chest. I waved back at both of them, and at everyone in that stadium who'd shown up for somebody they loved. Walking off the stage, I pressed my palm against the envelope still tucked in my gown, still sealed. My phone buzzed. A new Instagram story from my mother, posted 3 minutes earlier. I shouldn't have opened it. I did anyway. My father, mid-victory dance in the backyard, the Super Bowl kickoff playing on the TV behind him. My mother filming, laughing so hard the camera shook. The caption read, "Best Super Bowl party ever. time-stamped to the exact minute I'd received my diploma. I closed the app, put my phone away, and sat in silence until the ceremony ended. Caps went up into the sky everywhere around me when it was over. I didn't throw mine. I held it against my chest and pushed through the celebrating crowd toward the parking lot, where Grandma Grace had texted that she was resting in her car, too wiped out from the drive to come find me right away. My Uber said 12 minutes. 12 minutes to sit alone on a bench while families streamed past with armfuls of flowers and balloons and voices bright with pride. A father lifted his daughter onto his shoulders. 2 grandparents unrolled a banner. "Our little girl is a doctor now." The tears came without warning, and they weren't the dignified kind. For years of being the invisible daughter, for years of Tyler needs more, and Stella can handle herself, all of it came out of me at once on a bench in an empty corner of a parking lot on Super Bowl Sunday, while the rest of the world celebrated everyone but me. My Uber driver, a kind-faced woman, looked at me once and silently handed back a packet of tissues. "Rough day?" I almost laughed. "Family stuff," I managed, and she just nodded and drove, letting me fall apart quietly in her back seat while graduation parties bloomed across the city behind us. A few minutes in, I reached into my gown and found the envelope, still there, still sealed. It was time. I slid a finger under the flap and tore it open. Thick paper. An embossed seal I recognized this time. The Fulbright program. My hands were shaking too hard to read it smoothly the first time, so I read it 3 more times after that. "Dear Miss Whitney, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as a Fulbright Scholar for the coming academic year. Your research proposal on socioeconomic barriers in education has been chosen for funding at Heidelberg University in Germany, full tuition, a monthly stipend, travel allowances, and a research position at one of Europe's leading institutions. Total value: over $100,000. Out of more than 10,000 applicants worldwide, you are one of 800 selected. Dr. Smith had nominated me 8 months ago and never said a word, because she'd wanted this to land exactly like this, a gift for the girl whose family never once showed up." My driver caught my eye in the mirror. "Good news?" "I think so," I whispered. "I think my whole life just changed." "Well then, congratulations, honey. Whatever it is." I clutched the letter to my chest and watched the suburbs blur past the window. Somewhere out there my parents were eating wings and cheering for a football game, with no idea their forgotten daughter had just won one of the most prestigious academic honors on the planet. And for the first time in 4 years, I didn't want to tell them yet, because I was starting to understand something important. I didn't need them to see my worth for it to be real. I just needed to see it myself. I found Grandma Grace reclined in her parked car at the edge of the lot, eyes closed, that same purple scarf draped over her lap. I tapped on the window, and she startled awake, then broke into the widest smile I'd seen on her in years. "My brilliant girl. I made it, stuck behind that accident for 2 hours, but I made it." "I know. I saw you." I hugged her hard enough to worry about her ribs. "You were the only one." She pulled back and studied my face with those eyes that miss absolutely nothing. "You've been crying. And there's something else. You're different. What happened?" I couldn't hide anything from her. I never could. So I just handed her the letter. She read it slowly, lips moving along with the words, her expression sliding from confusion to recognition to total disbelief. "Stella Marie Whitney." Her voice cracked. "Is this real?" "It's real, Grandma." She sat back down hard, one hand pressed to her chest, and for one genuinely terrifying second, I thought I might have given my 80-year-old grandmother a heart attack. Then she laughed, a full, joyful, tearful sound that echoed across the empty lot. "My granddaughter, a Fulbright scholar." She looked up, eyes bright. "Do your parents know?" "No." "Good." The word came out fierce, surprising both of us. "Don't tell them." "Not yet." "My birthday's in 3 weeks. The whole family will be there. Let me handle this one." Her grip on my hand tightened. "Let them see exactly what they've been ignoring, in front of everyone who's ever watched them ignore it." I hesitated. "I don't want to make a scene." "It's not a scene, sweetheart." Her smile turned something close to wicked. "It's a reckoning. The next 3 weeks passed in a strange, suspended quiet. I went back to campus to box up my dorm room and start the paperwork for a German visa. I emailed Dr. Smith a thank you note so full of gratitude I had to rewrite it 4 times because I kept crying on the keyboard. She wrote back one line. I always knew you had it in you. Now go show the world. My mother called exactly once a week, always the same script. Just checking in. Did everything go okay at your ceremony thing? Ceremony thing. I'd stopped letting that one hurt. Oh, Tyler's tryout got rescheduled. The scout wants him in Dallas next month. Isn't that exciting? My father didn't call at all. Tyler texted once. Miss you, sis. When you coming home? I told him, Grandma's birthday. See you there, and left it there. Quietly, I booked a one-way flight to Frankfurt, departing 2 days after the party. I told exactly one person. Grandma Grace called me every night after that, practically giddy with the plan. I've worked out the perfect moment, she said. Right after I cut the cake, I'll ask everyone to share their good news. Tyler will brag about his scout first, he always does. And then you tell them. They won't know what hit them. I drove into town on a Friday evening, 3 weeks after graduation, and instead of going to my parents' house, I checked into a motel off the highway, peeling wallpaper, a coffee maker that sputtered like it was dying, nothing glamorous about it at all. But it was mine. My space, my terms. My mother texted around 7. Are you in town yet? Your room's ready. I told her I was staying at a friend's place. See you at Grandma's tomorrow. She didn't push back. She probably didn't care enough to. I spread everything out on the motel bed that night. The Fulbright letter, the Heidelberg confirmation, the visa paperwork, the one-way itinerary. Tomorrow, all of it would become public. Grandma called one more time. You ready, sweetheart? I think so. Grandma, what if I tell them, and they just shrug? A pause. That's not the point, Stella. Then what is? The point is that you'll know. You'll know you stood up, said your truth, and walked away with your head high. What they do with that afterward is on them. She was right. I'd spent 22 years waiting for my parents to see me. It was time to stop waiting and find out what was on the other side of that. Before we get to that party, because it's about to get loud, I'm curious what you think happens next. Drop a 1 in the comments if you think her parents apologize. Drop a 2 if you think they get angry instead. And if you've been with this story since the beginning, this is the part where hitting subscribe actually matters, because the next few minutes are the whole reason I'm telling you this. Okay, back to the party. Grandma Grace's house sits at the end of a quiet street, a craftsman with a wraparound porch and a garden she refuses to let anyone else touch. That day, cars lined the driveway and spilled onto the lawn. At least 30 people had shown up. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in years, old friends from her decades of teaching. I parked down the block and sat for a minute, collecting myself, my purse holding everything I needed, the Fulbright letter, the Heidelberg confirmation, the flight itinerary, paper weapons, dressed up as good news. The second I walked through the door, the family noise swallowed me whole. Stella, look at you, all grown up. How's the job search, sweetheart? Your mom says you're struggling. Have you met Tyler's new girlfriend? She's adorable. Tyler himself was holding court in the living room in an NFL jersey, surrounded by aunts hanging on every word, gesturing through some story about his latest tryout. Scout said I've got real potential, he was saying. Could be looking at a practice squad spot by next season. My father stood behind him, chest puffed up with pride. I slipped past, unnoticed, toward the kitchen, where my grandmother was directing the catering like a general running troops. Her eyes found mine immediately, and she gave me the smallest possible nod. Soon she mouthed. I nodded back and took a spot near the wall, watching my family orbit my brother like he was the only planet in the room. My mother laughed at something he said, her hand on his shoulder. Every inch the devoted mother. Nobody had asked about my graduation. Nobody had asked about my plans. That was fine. They were about to learn plenty. The cake came out, 80 candles flickering in the afternoon light.
We sang.
Grandma blew out every single one somehow, and the room burst into applause. Then she raised a hand, and the chatter died down. Thank you all for coming, she said, steady, commanding, 30 years of classroom presence behind every word. 80 is a long time to be alive. I've seen good things and hard things. Her eyes swept the room. Today, I want to hear from my family. Share your good news. Let an old woman feel proud of what she's built. Tyler stepped forward immediately. Of course he did. Well, Grandma, since you asked, I just had my best tryout yet. Coach thinks I could be looking at a practice squad contract by fall. My father whooped. My mother clasped her hands together. The relatives applauded politely. That's lovely, Tyler, Grandma said. Hard work pays off. She let a cousin announce a promotion, an aunt announce a pregnancy, basking each of them for a moment in the family's approval. Then her eyes landed on me. Stella. Her voice cut clean through the murmur of side conversations. My oldest grandchild. You just graduated from college. Any news to share with the family? The whole room turned to look at me, some curious, some indifferent, a few already half-tuned out. My mother leaned toward Aunt Carol and murmured something about how I was still looking for work. You know how it is with those liberal arts degrees. I heard every word. I pretended I hadn't. Grandma raised her hand again, sharper this time. Let Stella speak for herself, Donna. There was an edge in her voice I'd genuinely never heard before. Go on, sweetheart.
Tell them.
I reached into my purse and pulled out the letter. My voice didn't shake, which surprised me as much as anyone. I do have news, I said. I wanted to share it with the whole family. I unfolded the page, so the Fulbright letterhead was visible. 3 weeks ago, on graduation day, I received this. I've been selected as a Fulbright scholar, full funding to research at Heidelberg University in Germany for 2 years. Silence. Complete, total silence. Then Aunt Carol found her voice first. Wait, Fulbright. The international one. That's basically impossible to get.
One of 800 chosen worldwide, I said.
Out of more than 10,000 applicants, the whole package is worth over $100,000. The murmuring started immediately, faces shifting through confusion, then shock. My cousin Marcus, a lawyer, was staring at me with his mouth open. Uncle Jim had his phone out, already Googling. Holy, he muttered. Fulbright scholars include Nobel winners. Rhodes scholars. Says here the acceptance rate's around 8%. My mother's face had gone pale. My father looked like he'd been slapped. Grandma was beaming. My brilliant granddaughter, she said. Tell them when you receive this news, Stella. I looked directly at my parents. I got this letter on graduation day. The same day you hosted a Super Bowl party instead of watching me receive my diploma summa cum laude. The same day I gave the student representative speech in front of 3,000 people alone. The silence that followed was a different kind, heavier. I could feel 30 relatives looking at my parents now, their faces sliding from admiration for me into something else entirely. My mother opened her mouth. I kept going before she could find words. I didn't tell you sooner because I wanted you to hear it like this, in front of everyone, so you'd finally understand. My father found his voice first. Stella, why didn't you tell us sooner? We would have what, Dad? My voice stayed level. Change your Super Bowl plans? Come to my graduation? I called you the night before and told you I was giving a speech. Mom hung up on me. That's not. My mother's eyes were wet. We were busy. The scout was Tyler Scout. Always Tyler Scout. Uncle Jim shifted uncomfortably. Hold on. You two didn't go to her graduation at all. It was Super Bowl Sunday, my father said, though his voice had lost most of its authority. We had 50 guests. We couldn't just cancel. Cancel? Aunt Carol cut in sharply. Richard. She graduated summa cum laude. She won a Fulbright. My kids would kill for either one of those, let alone both. I could feel the room turning, the tide of opinions sliding away from my parents and toward me. 30 pairs of eyes were finally seeing what I'd been seeing my entire life. Grandma rose slowly from her chair, and the room went quiet on its own this time. I'm 80 years old, she said. I've watched this family for decades, and I've stayed quiet about a great deal. Not today. She turned to her own daughter. Donna, you chose a football game over your daughter's greatest achievement. Richard, You poured everything you had into Tyler, while Stella worked 3 jobs to pay her own way through school. She shook her head slowly. I raised you better than this. My mother was crying freely now. Mama, we didn't know. You didn't ask, Grandma said, and the words landed like something physical. That's the entire problem. You never asked. And now she's leaving because, frankly, you don't deserve to keep her here. The room went completely still. I took a breath. There was one more thing they needed to hear, but it could wait one more minute, because my mother was rising out of her chair, mascara running, reaching for an explanation that wasn't going to hold. Stella, you have to understand. We never meant to hurt you. You were always so capable. Capable, I repeated, and let the words sit in the air. I was capable because I never had another option. You made sure of that. We love you both equally, my father said, though even he seemed to hear how hollow it sounded as it left his mouth. Tyler just needed more support. Did he? I tilted my head. Let me remind you what that support looked like, Dad.
A car.
A personal trainer. First-class flights to tryouts in 3 states. You called me once a month if I was lucky, to ask when I'd get a real job. Aunt Carol was whispering to Uncle Jim now. Marcus wouldn't meet my parents' eyes. You never asked my GPA. You never asked about my thesis. You didn't know about the Fulbright nomination because you never asked about my life at all. My father stood up. Now wait just a minute, Richard. Grandma's voice cut through like a blade. Sit down. Let her finish. He sat. I'd never once seen my father take an order from anyone in his life, and in that moment, in front of every person he'd ever tried to impress, he didn't have a choice. My mother tried a different angle. Stella, we can fix this. We can do better. You don't have to go to Germany. Stay here. Let us make it up to you. That's not how this works, Mom. I kept my voice gentle, but firm underneath it. I'm not punishing you. I'm making a choice. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing myself. Wait. Tyler's voice cut through the tension, and the whole room turned to look at him. The golden child, the favorite son, standing up with his face pale beneath his tan. For once he didn't look confident. He looked lost. Stella. He took a step toward me. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know it was this bad. I know you didn't, I said. But you should have. He dragged a hand through his hair, agitated. I should have asked. I should have noticed. I was so caught up in my own stuff, I assumed you were fine, that you didn't need anything. Because that's what they told you, I said quietly. That's what they told everyone. He turned to face our parents, and for the first time in my life, I heard genuine anger in his voice. Is that true? You skipped her graduation while I was in the backyard playing beer pong. My mother didn't answer. My father stared at the floor. Jesus. Tyler laughed, but there was nothing funny in it. I've been walking around thinking I was the big success story. Practice squad potential. He gestured at me. She won a Fulbright out of 10,000 people, and we were grilling burgers. Tyler, honey, it's complicated, my mother started.
No, it's not.
He shook his head. It's really not complicated at all. We dropped the ball. All of us.
He looked at me.
Sis, I'm sorry. I'm not apologizing for them. They need to do that themselves. But I'm sorry I never paid attention. I wanted to stay angry at him. Part of me still was. But there was real regret in his face, and I recognized it for what it actually was. The first crack in a wall that had stood my entire life. Thank you, Tyler, I said. That means something. It doesn't fix everything, but it's a start. I reached into my purse one last time and pulled out the printed flight itinerary. There's one more thing. I bought a ticket to Germany 3 weeks ago. One way. I leave in 2 days. My mother's head snapped up. 2 days, Stella? That's too soon. We haven't even had time to. To what, Mom? I kept my voice level. Talk. You've had 22 years to talk to me. You chose not to. My father stood again, something desperate flaring in his face. I won't allow this. You can't just leave the country without. Without what? Dad? Your permission? I almost laughed. I'm 22. I have a fully funded scholarship to one of the best research universities in Europe. I don't need your permission for anything. But you can't. He stopped, and I watched him realize in real time that he had no leverage left. No money I needed. No support I couldn't live without. I'd built my entire adult life without them, and they were only just now understanding what that actually meant. Grandma rose from her seat, crossed the room, and took my hand. This party was supposed to be about me, she told the room. But I want everyone here to know, this moment, right here, is the best gift I've ever received. Watching my granddaughter stand up for herself. She turned to my mother, her own daughter, with tears in her eyes. Donna, I love you. But you've made mistakes. Big ones. Now you have a choice. Spend the next 2 days making excuses, or spend them trying to repair what's left. My mother was crying too hard to answer. I squeezed my grandmother's hand and looked around the room, at the relatives, the witnesses, the whole reckoning laid bare. I'm not abandoning this family, I said clearly. I'm just choosing to go where I'm valued. My father cornered me by the kitchen doorway about an hour later. The party had splintered into awkward clusters by then, relatives making polite early exits, my grandmother holding court with the few who'd stayed, my mother crying somewhere in the bathroom. Stella. His voice was low, urgent. This is a mistake. Europe, what kind of career is that? What about health insurance? I have a research stipend, full health coverage, and a 2-year contract, I said, counting them off on my fingers. My advisors already connected me with academic networks across 3 continents. If we're being honest, my career is more secure right now than Tyler's. His jaw tightened. Don't compare yourself to your brother. Why not? You did. For 22 years. He flinched, and I realized neither of us had any idea what to do with a version of me that talked back. If you leave like this, he said slowly, if you leave angry, it'll damage this family. Is that what you want? I took a breath because this was the hardest part, staying calm when every cell in my body wanted to scream.
I'm not angry, Dad.
I'm done. There's a difference. Done waiting for you to see me. Done hoping you'd change. Done making myself smaller so Tyler could feel bigger. I held his eyes. I wish you well. I mean that. But I can't keep putting my life on hold for a family that never made room for me in it. He opened his mouth, closed it again, and I walked past him, through the kitchen, out the back door into my grandmother's garden. The azaleas were blooming. The sun was going down. Somewhere behind me, inside the house, I could hear my mother sobbing, and I felt, strangely, almost peaceful. Grandma found me there as the last guests filtered out, settling onto the garden bench beside me with a small grunt. Her knees, never quite the same since the accident scare that morning. For a while we just sat, watching fireflies start their evening shift. How do you feel? She asked eventually. Lighter. I was a little surprised to realize it was true. Like I've been carrying something I didn't know was there. I've been carrying one too, she said. The weight of staying quiet. I should have said something years ago. I watched them neglect you, and I made excuses for it. They mean well. Tyler just needs extra attention. I was wrong, Stella. Grandma, let me finish. Her grip on my hand tightened. What you did today took more courage than I've shown in decades. Standing in front of everyone, telling the truth, that took real guts. I learned it from you. She laughed, a watery sound. Flattery will get you everywhere, young lady. The back door opened. My mother stood there, red-eyed and hesitant, taking one slow step toward us before stopping short. Grandma looked at her own daughter with an expression I couldn't quite name.
Donna.
Come here. My mother approached like she was expecting to be sent to her room, stopping a few feet away, unable to meet my eyes. Mama, she whispered, I don't know how to fix this. You start, Grandma said, firm but not unkind, by admitting what you did wrong. Not to me.
To her.
My mother finally looked at me, and for the first time in my life I saw something genuine there, real shame, not performance.
Stella, I'm so sorry. It's not enough, I said.
Not yet. Maybe not ever. But it's a beginning. Thank you for saying that, Mom. I kept my voice steady. I need time. A lot of it. She nodded through fresh tears.
Time.
That's all I can offer right now anyway. 2 days later, I stood at the international departures gate with one suitcase and a carry-on. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since the party. 47 missed calls from my mother, 12 from my father, 8 texts from Tyler ranging from please call me to I understand if you need space to, eventually, just a single heart emoji. I hadn't answered any of them. The only message I'd opened was from Grandma Grace, sent that morning. Fly safe, my darling. The world is waiting for you. I love you more than words can say. I sent back a heart of my own.
Some things don't need more than that.
The departure board flipped over. LH 4001 to Frankfurt, now boarding. I joined the line of passengers shuffling toward the gate, families hugging goodbye all around me. A mother crying into her son's shoulder, a father shaking his daughter's hand, formal and loving at once. My goodbye had already happened 2 days earlier, in a living room full of witnesses. Nobody was here for me now. I found, to my own surprise, that it was okay. I scanned my boarding pass, walked the jetway, and settled into a window seat on a half-empty midweek flight that nobody else seemed to want. As we taxied toward the runway, I looked out at the flat, familiar shape of Texas, the only home I'd ever known. Somewhere down there, my parents were waking up to the reality that their daughter was gone. Not dead. Not estranged forever. Just choosing a different direction. The engines roared, and the ground fell away beneath us. I watched the highways shrink, then the suburbs, then the distant glint of my parents' neighborhood, smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. I turned from a window, closed my eyes, and breathed. For the first time in my life, I was flying toward something instead of running away from something. Somewhere over the Atlantic, I opened my laptop. The cabin was dark, most passengers asleep under thin blankets, but my mind was too loud to rest. I wrote to Dr. Smith. Dear Professor Smith, I'm on the plane. I made it. Because of you, I'm flying toward a future I never thought was possible for someone like me. Thank you for seeing something in me when nobody else did. Thank you for the secret, and for believing I deserved a surprise after years of disappointment. I promise to make it worth it. Gratefully, Stella. I hit send and sat back, watching the dark roll past my window. The Atlantic somewhere below, vast and unknowable, Texas somewhere behind me, with my parents and my brother and my old life in it, Germany somewhere ahead, with a research position and a new beginning waiting. My phone buzzed once more before airplane mode swallowed the signal completely. Dr. Smith, I always knew you would. Now go change the world. I smiled at the screen and tucked the phone away. Somewhere a few rows up, a baby cried once and settled. The engines hummed their steady note underneath everything. I thought about my mother's tears, my father's confusion, my brother's surprising, unscripted apology. I thought about my grandmother in her garden, proud and a little fierce. I thought about the girl I'd been only 8 weeks earlier, sitting cross-legged on a dorm bed, begging for 2 hours of her parents' attention. That girl was gone. In her place was someone who understood that her worth never depended on being seen by people who'd chosen, again and again, not to look. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever been the one working 3 jobs while somebody else got handed everything, I want you to know you're not alone in that. Drop a heart in the comments so I know you're out there, and if this one hit close to home, send it to someone who needs to hear it today. Sometimes one story is enough to change how you see your own. 6 months later, I was sitting in my tiny apartment in Heidelberg, papers spread across my desk, German winter pressing against the window. My research was going well, better than well, actually. My advisor had called my preliminary findings exceptional just the week before. My phone buzzed, a video call from my mother. For weeks after I'd left, I hadn't answered her calls at all. I needed the space. Eventually, we'd worked our way up to careful, polite texts. This was the first video call in months. I hesitated, then accepted. Her face filled the screen. Older somehow, tired in a way I hadn't seen before, but with something else underneath it I didn't immediately recognize. Stella. Her voice caught. Thank you for answering.
Hi, Mom.
I can't talk long. I won't keep you. She took a shaky breath. I've been going to therapy. Your father too. I needed you to know that. I didn't say anything, not sure what there was to say yet. The therapist helped me see patterns. The way we treated you versus Tyler. I've been writing down every memory I can think of, and her voice broke. I'm so ashamed, Stella.
I didn't see it then.
Looking back now, it's so obvious. Mom, no. Let me finish, please. She wiped her eyes. I'm not calling to ask you to come home. I'm not calling for forgiveness. I just needed you to know that I see it now. What we did, what we didn't do. And I'm working on becoming someone who actually deserves to be your mother. The words sat there between us, an entire ocean wide. Thank you for telling me that, I finally said. Are you happy there? I looked around my small apartment. The books, the research, the new life I'd built out of nothing but stubbornness. I'm getting there, I said. Good. She nodded, tears running freely now. That's all I wanted to hear. 1 year after graduation, I stood at a podium in Berlin presenting my research to an international conference. 300 academics filling the auditorium, professors from Harvard, Oxford, Tokyo, Sao Paulo, all there to hear about my work on educational inequality. My work.
Mine.
When I finished, the applause went on long enough to feel almost unreal. A professor from Columbia approached afterward with a business card already out. Miss Whitney, your research is groundbreaking. Have you thought about doctoral programs in the States? I told her I was keeping my options open, and I meant it. That night I video called Grandma Grace, and her face lit up the screen the second the call connected. 81 now, still sharp as a tack. How is it, my darling?
They loved it, Grandma.
3 job offers and a PhD invitation. She clapped her hands together. That's my girl. Oh, I wish I could have been there. Me too. Your mother called me yesterday, she said carefully. Asked how you were doing. I know. We talk sometimes now. Not often, but sometimes. And your father? That's harder. I paused. He actually apologized last month. It was stiff and awkward, and he clearly didn't know what to say. But he tried. That's something. It's something, I agreed. And Tyler, he didn't make the NFL. I said it without any judgment in it at all. He's coaching at a high school now. We text each other memes sometimes. It's weird,
but nice.
Grandma nodded slowly. Families are complicated. They are. But you, she pointed at the screen. You, my darling, are thriving. You took everything they threw at you and turned it into wings. I felt tears prick at my eyes. I learned it from the best, Grandma. Nonsense. She winked. You learned it from yourself. I just handed you the match. You're the one who lit the fire. Looking back on all of it now, I think I finally understand my parents in a way I couldn't have at 22. My father grew up dreaming of NFL glory that ended with a blown-out knee in high school. Tyler wasn't just his son. Tyler was his second chance, his do-over, proof that his old dream wasn't entirely dead. He poured everything he had into that because the alternative, that some dreams simply die, was too much to face. My mother grew up poor, genuinely poor, the kind that rearranges every decision around one question. Will this keep us safe? Tyler represented security to her, a future salary, a way out of a fear she'd been carrying since she was a child herself. Neither of them set out to hurt me. They just didn't see me, because seeing me clearly would have meant questioning everything they'd built their lives around. And my own part in it, the thing I've had to be honest with myself about. I wanted their approval so badly that I kept showing up to a table where there had never been a seat reserved for me. I made myself smaller and quieter and easier to overlook, hoping that eventually they'd notice anyway. They didn't. Not until I finally stopped hoping they would. Here's what I actually learned from all of it. You cannot wait around for other people to recognize your worth. You have to see it yourself first before anyone else gets a vote. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do, for yourself and even for the people who hurt you, is to walk away cleanly. Boundaries aren't walls built to keep people out. They're doors. You decide who gets to walk through them and when. If any part of this found you tonight, I'd genuinely love to know. Have you ever had to set a boundary with your own family? Have you ever felt invisible to the people who are supposed to see you first? Thank you for being here with me tonight. Until next time.